My name is Dave. I'm an alcoholic. I've been through these steps with the help of a Big Book Step Study sponsor. Have a relationship with a higher power as a result of doing this work. And I try to work the steps to the best of my willingness on a daily basis. Thanks, Mike, for asking me to share. You asked me about 15 minutes ago. But he had told me a few days ago that the person that he had speaking this week, he hadn't heard from in a little bit. And so when I was driving here, the wheels were already kind of in motion. I was, thinking that there was, if that person didn't show up, Mike's my sponsor, I was thinking maybe there's a chance that he was going to ask me. And at one point I made the decision that I was going to say no. That lasted for about 30 seconds. And, and it's fear. It's just, I don't want to be up here in front of a bunch of people that I don't know, feeling like they're judging me and, wondering what they're thinking, and that, that I'm not, fear that I'm not good enough, that I'm not going to say the right thing. Really what I'm looking for is, this to end and you guys to carry me out on your shoulders and we'll all cheer and go in the parking lot. And it's going to be like the best Saturday ever. So just to quickly identify, I knew I had a problem with drugs and alcohol when I was 16 years old, and I was put in my my only drug rehab. I went from a kid that did pretty well in school, that had a fairly bright future, to somebody that had dropped out of high school and was smoking crystal meth out of light bulbs at 17 years old. My poor parents, I think about, just I have a 23-year-old daughter, and, I just think about the torture that I put them through those years, just wondering if, every night if they were gonna get the call that I was dead. I got sober my first time when I was 19 years old. My daughter had just been born, and, I felt like I had to get my shit together. And, but I didn't take any suggestions. I just kind of did AA the way that I wanted. I did about 1 out of 10 things that was suggested, and only if it was easy and it suited me. And surprisingly, AA didn't work very well for me. I could not wrap my head around the God part of the program. I was not from a religious family. I'd never prayed. I just didn't. I didn't have an open mind to it at all, and a part of me just thought I was a kid being a kid, and that I'd just grow up and I'd snap out of it, and so I went back out, and and then all my friends, they just stopped. All the people that I partied with, just kind of life became a little bit too intense for them to party the way we were partying, and they all seemed to find a way to stop, and I just couldn't find a way to stop. I just kept going and going and going. Excuse me. When I was 30, my life was a mess, and I thought that maybe I'd give this AA thing a try again. And I went to maybe 4 or 5 meetings, and still, I felt like AA was a cult, and we were all being brainwashed, and and it was that God thing again. And I just, I wasn't willing to give that a shot and be open-minded to it. Then I was almost 40, and my life was just still a mess, and the drugs and the alcohol weren't working anymore. When that was always what I would do to just kind of shut off the crap in my head. All the stuff that I had going on, and I was overwhelmed by life. I just could not deal with life, and I felt like the only way that I could manage it is if I was drunk or high, pretty much. Every minute that I wasn't at work. And then it just got to a point where it didn't shut that stuff off anymore. So I'd be drunk and high, and I'd still have all this stuff that I'd be obsessing about, and and full of fear about, and just miserable and angry, and so I contacted a person that helped me get sober when I was 19 years old. He was still in the program. he took me to a meeting, and my third day sober, I came into this meeting, and I heard something different here. You know, it wasn't what I had been hearing in all the other AA meetings that I'd gone to in my life. You know, I heard a room full of people that, you know, had done certain things and seemed to have a level of happiness and peace of mind and serenity, and, you know, and that's what I'd always wanted. You know, I was miserable. Life sucked, you know, and I didn't understand why, and I didn't know how to fix it, and, you know, and here's a room full of people that seemed to have the same problem drinking that I did, and they seemed to be able to stop, and life was good, you know, and that was what, you know, I had wanted desperately for years and years and years. I had tried to stop for years, you know, years and years. You know, I'd constantly, like, you know, I'd set these deadlines for myself. You know, I'm going to stop on this date. You know, it's my daughter's birthday. I'm going to stop on Thanksgiving. I'm going to stop on New Year's. I'm going to, you know, time after time after time for years and years and years. And I could never stop, and I didn't understand why. And, you know, I was always looking for, I wasn't looking very hard, but I was, you know, kind of half-assed looking for, you know, some sort of answer. You know, I remember, you know, checking out Rational Recovery, you know, online while I was stoned, you know, for 10 minutes. And, you know, I considered, you know, getting on a plane and going out to, you know, Passages in Malibu and just like hanging out on the beach for a couple weeks. That would fix things. And I just got to a point where I was out of ideas, you know, and so I said, I'll give the AA thing a shot again. And the difference has been this time is that I really gave it a shot, and, you know, and I've actually, you know, I followed the book. You know, I did it the way that it's laid out. To me, this, you know, it's an instruction guide, you know, instructional guide on how to not just get sober, how to live life. You know, I didn't understand how to live life, and I was always miserable. I always had these expectations of people, and, you know, and they never met my expectations, and I was always angry as a result of it. And, you know, I was so delusional when I walked into this hall. So, you know, my sponsor took me through the first part of the book. We'd read a chapter, and I'd highlight stuff, and I'd underline words and look up the definitions, and and then we got to the fourth step, and we did the first part, the resentments, which I had just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resentments, to pretty much anybody that I'd had any interaction with in my entire life. Even if we hadn't actually said words to each other, I looked at you and you didn't smile back at me, so I thought you didn't like me, so then you were an asshole and you were on the list. I don't know how I went through life this way for so long. And then we got to this part of the fourth step, the fears, and I didn't think too much about this as I was going. I didn't think that I'd have too many of these. I'm really grateful the way that the fourth step is laid out, because we were in a meeting this morning and Mike was talking about it. It's little pieces, one at a time, that are, for me, were accomplishable. And, if I looked at all of the AA program in a whole and said, oh, I'm going to do all this, I don't know if I would have had that easy a time, or if I would have done the work. I was lucky to just be really, I just was kind of in the part that I was in, and I wasn't looking forward. When I was doing one part, I wasn't wondering about what was next. I was just focused on doing that one part. And so we got to the fears, and I really didn't know what to expect when I started writing, and I think I had close to 100 that I wrote down. I had a lot, and it was weird, just how some of them were. It was like they were completely different sides of the spectrum that I was afraid, and I had fears related to both sides of the spectrum. So really, there was no way for me to look at that issue without, being filled with anxiety about it. I was afraid to not be in a relationship. I was afraid to be in a relationship, and I wish I had my list in front of me. I was, one of the biggest ones is I was terrified of people's opinions of me. The fact that I'm sitting up here doing this now, talking about AA, talking about God, is impossible. There's no way that I could, based on where I was when I started to be able to do this. I remember the first time I spoke at a meeting, I can't remember, it was some meeting in Worcester, and I was on a commitment there, and I spoke for about 3 minutes, panic set in, and I said, okay, thanks, and I ran back to my seat. And, the big thing that I have as a result of doing this work is I have trust in a higher power. I'm able to, when I'm asked to do something that I'm terrified of, I'm able to, just ask God to take away the fear and, redirect me towards what He wants me to be. I don't have to not show up because I'm terrified of things. I don't have to be filled with anxiety, worrying about things. I have a very strong feeling that everything is always going to turn out fine, and I never had that before, and that it's made life so much easier for me. I don't spend time obsessing about things or worrying about things. It's not to say that I'm not afraid of plenty of things. I am, and things come up, but when things come up, I know what to do now. I know what the answer is. I know, for me, what I have to do to overcome that fear, or to just be okay in that moment, is to just ask my higher power for help. And it works every time. Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, but every time that I do it, it always works. And I just, I struggle with relationships with my family, my daughter and my parents. They see this part of me as kind of me just not caring, because I don't have this panicked anxiety about things all the time that they constantly worry about. But I just know that everything's going to be okay. No matter what it is, it's going to be fine. I've been faced with all sorts of crazy situations in my life, things that I never thought that I'd be able to figure a way out of, and we're going to be just, this gigantic nuclear explosion, and every time it's worked out fine. It's been okay. I don't know how it's going to be okay. I don't know what the path to okay is, but it's always going to be okay. Whether it's, work or my child or my parents or my friends, it always just works out, and that, that knowledge and being able to ask a higher power to just help me get to a point where I'm okay with things has just made my life so simple. I don't carry around a lot of shit anymore. I'm not, I was always just this crazy anxious person. All of my thoughts surrounded, what if this happened? What if that happened? And I'd be constantly playing out these movies in my head, of, well, if I do this, what if they do this? Then I'm probably going to have to do this, which means that they're going to do this, and then I might have to do this. And this was every single interaction that I had with anyone, and it was overwhelming. This is why I need to be drunk and high all the time, because I couldn't survive that way, and it was constant misery, and I didn't think any of this would work, and I don't understand how it all worked. It doesn't make sense, but I don't need it to make sense. It doesn't have to, I don't have to have this, this diagram of how it all worked, and what, this fear part did this and the resentments did this. It just all works. And when I came in here, when I sat in this meeting and I saw all these people talking about this, it just always seemed like it just worked. And And that was huge for me in the beginning, because I needed a way to live. You know, I just didn't understand how to get through life, you know, because I was so driven by fear, you know, especially other people's opinions. You know, that was just, you know, that still creeps up with me sometimes. You know, but it was overwhelming. You know, I'd stare at the ground. You know, I didn't even want to, you know, look you in the eyes, because you might say something to me, and then I'm going to have to say something to you, and we're going to have this interaction, and I don't really know how to interact with people. You know, I remember watching reality TV when it first came out, like, you know, when I was, you know, 15, 20 years ago, and I was looking for answers on how to communicate to people. Like, I just didn't, I didn't understand how some people, you know, just kind of had this, you know, this aura about them, and they just like floated through life, and they didn't, you know, they really actually liked other people, and I didn't understand how that was possible, and I thought maybe if I developed this knowledge of, you know, what you're supposed to say when someone else says that, you know, maybe it'll be easy for me, and I won't be so miserable. You know, I underlined a few things in the 4-paragraph reading. I don't know, I think I probably touched on most of it. You know, what time is it? I don't know how long have I gone? No? Not very long. I don't know, you know, if you're considering doing this work, you know, I strongly suggest that you just do it. You know, I haven't, in the time that I've been in the program, I haven't met anybody who's done the steps this way, that's finished it, you know, finished the work and the writing of the 4th step and said, you know, well, that was a big waste of time. It changed my life. You know, it's made it so much simpler. You know, the last page of, or page 88, it talks about we're in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. You know, that's the difference for me. You know, I could just kind of float along, you know, and just kind of go along for the ride, know things are going to be fine. You know, I'm so grateful that I found this meeting, and, you know, that I found somebody to, you know, show me where the instructions are laid out in this book. And that's it. Thanks.